All right, we are going to review slope, linear functions, and linear relationships. A linear function is a function that can be written in the form of y equals mx plus b, where that m is your slope and b is where the line crosses that y-axis. And remember, the y-axis is up and down. Let's take a look at figuring out slope first. Remember, to find slope, you are going to find that rate of change. So you take two of your given points to figure out that rate of change. So when we are looking at that, fortunately with this one, we have a table to go along. So let's go ahead and graph these first 2 points. So -2, -1, -1, 2, -1. We're going to consider that point 1, our first point that we graphed. And then we've got -1, 0, which is right here. So that will be our point 2. So these are ordered pairs, so we do not even have to change that out. And when you are doing order of pairs, remember that first x is across the x-axis and the y is that up and down. So to find our slope, we are going to plug it into this formula down here. So our y2 would be 0 minus, so we'll do m equals 0 minus our y1, which is -1. Remember, a minus a negative number makes it positive or plus 1. So that would equal 1 over our x2, which is -1, minus our x1, which is -2, again makes that positive. And that would get us -1 plus 2 is just 1. So we've got 1 over 1 as our rate of change. So it's already down here. Y equals x plus 1, because if we're plugging it into the y equals mx plus b, we just solved for m, and we said m is 1. Okay, the x stays the same, right? Plus b is where the line crosses that y-axis. So where does it cross our y-axis? Right here, which is just that 1 right there. So we've got y equals 1x plus 1. And 1x isn't how we normally say it, because 1 times 1 is just 1. So that is where that, I ran out of room down here, so I'm going to draw an arrow up here. That is where that y equals x plus 1 came from. So now that we've reviewed how to get to that, let's take a look at graphing a function. And we're going to do a practice. So let's take a look. We have our graph over here, and we are trying to figure out which function best represents this graph. So as we are looking at this, we can plug it into our y equals mx plus b. Remember, b is where it crosses the y-axis, and we have it right here as -2. So now we just have to figure out the m. So if we were to find 2 points, we can go ahead and we can use the point that we have, or instead of going through that whole process we just did, since there are answer choices here, you can plug these into your graphing calculator. So with this on the STAR test, you get the opportunity to use a graphing calculator that looks like your TI-84, or you get the option to use this Desmos STAR Addition calculator. And you can plug these directly into this and see if the graph matches. So you can work through it like we just did that practice problem before this, or you can plug in each one of the A, B, C, D. So we're going to start with y equals 1/4. And I just did 1 divided by 4 to make the 1/4. Then you're going to want to click right here so that your x doesn't go underneath that. It goes to the side. And then you're going to put your x in right there. 1/4 x. Do your addition sign. Plus 8. So notice I'm looking at a right here. And this is what I got. Does that graph match this graph? It does not cross the y-axis at -2. It crosses at 8. So we can automatically already rule out two different ones. We can rule out A because it's got the +8 and we know it doesn't need there. Also D because it's got the +8, because remember, this is your B, and we already figured out that it's -2. So we only have to look at B and C for our answer choices. Let's take a look. Let's plug in B. Okay, so we've got y equals 1/4 x, and instead of the +8, we're going to do -2. All right. It's crossing the y-axis like this one is supposed to. It is crossing the x-axis at 8, 0. That looks like that's right here. So that one is looking pretty good. But let's double check our work and check on C. Y equals, instead of 1/4, it's 4x minus 2. Whoa, and that one definitely does not look like the same one. So our correct answer is B. And so it's very important to know your formula, but also know that you have the tool of your graphing calculator to be able to see if it's the same. You're going to continue through the lesson practicing these skills.